Hello. Today is 3rd of April. It's 10:13 a.m. This is my second shot at trying to do this. So the subject here is observation, perception, and extrapolation around the idea of the virus or bioweapon. And specifically woo-woo people and how they are supporting a particular kind of a narrative. We have people like Joseph Farrell, Dr. Joseph Farrell, who's a doctor of I don't know what, divinity, history, something. Not a medical doctor, I don't believe. But he is as I understand it, he's deeply involved within the Orthodox Christian Church. So that means he's stuck in belief mind. That means that all of his observations are going to be filtered through that belief mind, and his extrapolations or conclusions of those, what those observations mean, is going to be filtered through his belief mind. This is also true of David Wilcock. David Wilcock is a belief mind fellow. He lives in it. He feeds it all the time, and all of his observations are 100% filtered by the perceptions that are formed by that belief mind in a different way than Dr. Farrell, but it's still belief mind, and it's inaccurate. Dr. Farrell and Jason at 4, he has a belief mind. It's woo-woo oriented, Q, 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 just like now David Wilcock and Corey Good and Jason Sather, although Jason Sather is apparently pissed off at that we're not associating with Corey and David anymore. And there's the Edge of Wonder Boys, and there's Kerry Cassidy, and there's all these Q people and all this kind of shit. Well, Alex Jones is going to pull the rug out from Q next week, and it's a good thing. Q is fucking with people's perceptions by providing a false narrative, and is in support of the Communist Party of China's mainline activity at the moment, which is to deflect any blame of this humanity-wide health crisis back to them, just like Joseph Farrell does. Joseph Farrell says the numbers are not that bad. It's flu. You know, he's not saying the disease doesn't exist. He's just saying it's yet another flu. And, but this man is not someone you should trust about health. Constantly smoking, I smoked. I understand the addiction. I stopped. You can too. Anybody can. It's a matter of controlling the mind. If you don't control the mind, the addiction controls you. And so Dr. Farrell's, breathing in the all of the stuff, taking in all these inputs, and is spewing out information about his perception of health, which is filtered by the fact that he's a smoker and therefore is presumably one of the most likely to die from this should he encounter it. It's just it. It's just the harshness of it. This is a bioweapon, in my opinion. That's a conclusion. It's not a belief. I form that conclusion from observation, from calculated, critical thinking about that observation, without a belief mind perception filtering it. Okay? I had open perception. I looked at what I saw. I said, okay, what the fuck's that? And then I analyzed what the fuck that was and said, okay, this is what the fuck that is. Now, what the fuck does it mean? And then I started thinking about what it meant in December about this. And I made all these predictions, which have all happened in December. Okay, so Joseph Farrell's conclusion, extrapolation, what does he call them? Wild ass speculation, is wrong. He's wrong. The speculation is bullshit. It's formed by a perception that is wrapped around and totally controlled by his belief mind. This is also the case of all these diverse people. Jason Goodman, his belief mind and his perception have him thinking some things accurately, but other things he's missing totally. So we're all doing this, right? Because none of us, no one in humanity has ever gone through this before. This is a release of a bioweapon. And we've never faced that. This is potentially a humanity-wide extinction level event because of the nature of the bioweapon. as the hospital systems collapse, more and more people will die of just regular shit, okay? Sepsis, bad teeth, infections because they got to go out and do things like try and garden and they don't have a clue as to how to do that, or hunt and don't have a clue as to how to do that. All of these activities, all these new things that they'll be trying to do will put them at risk. They will die of the ordinary, routine, predictable kinds of accidents that occur in these sorts of things. Once the healthcare system collapses, that's what's in the process of happening right now. That's because the doctors and the military, there may be some people in the military that understand this perception the way I do, that it's a bioweapon, but that is not getting out to the people that it needs to get out to. The doctors need to be told, because they're authoritarians, okay? Doctors are authoritarians. They believe a couple of things. They believe in the power structure, the protocol, the organization in which they were inculcated and initiated. They believed if they were not taught it's not meaningful to know. That's why they discount vitamin C, all these other proven antivirals, et cetera, et cetera. So these two things are combining to defeat doctors. The fact that they're authoritarian, and if they were not taught it doesn't need to be known by them, defeats them. All it takes to undefeat them, to change this, is for an authority figure, and they would respect a military authority figure, walking in there and saying, look, fuckers, it's a bioweapon, better change your thinking, it's not a flu. And then they would do things differently, okay? They wouldn't know what to do, but they would start doing new examinations differently. People that had creative understanding would rise to the top. New avenues would be tried. Success would be had. That success would be magnified, and we would be on our way out of this mess. This is where perception, belief system gets in the way. If you're filtering everything through a rigid belief system like the Eastern Orthodox Church, you're going to come to certain conclusions, which are total bullshit. Dr. Farrell is not a clear thinker. He is a deep thinker. There's a difference. Lots of woo-woo people are that way. They can think incredibly deep, but they're quite insane. Okay, because because they may go deep does not mean they have big vision, clear vision, comprehension, critical thinking ability, or anything. All it means is they can follow things down a rabbit hole, and that's fine if you're chasing a rabbit. But this situation is not that. So Carrie Cassidy, David Wilcock, Corey Good, the fat James Gillian at ECETI, Simon Parks, all of these individuals are doing a disservice to their fellow humans by deflecting and distracting from the other humans' abilities to look at and choose a new observational paradigm, a new perceptional filter to apply. If you think of this as a bioweapon, you will be fucking scared to go outside. If you think of it as a disease that you may or may not come into contact with, there's a different sort of behavior that's going to develop. If you think of it as a disease, you might easily die because you will mistake things and encounter the bioweapon. If you think of it as a bioweapon, you're going to be so paranoid that you instantly restrict your exploratory, potentially dangerous activities to a bare minimum, just because you don't know. And it also gives you some new thinking, if you're in the medical professions, to think, okay, what do we know about it? What can we analyze about it? What can we state about it as a fact in terms of how it's presenting itself, in spite of the situation that those facts do not conform to the way viri infect humans. All right? So if you know that it's actually exhibiting these things, you won't discount it just because, if you think of it as a bioweapon, you won't discount it just because those presentations are outside of your thinking of what a virus should do. And thus you'll say, no, look, it's got a component here that appears to be using a bacteria as a cover. It appears to be parasitizing this particular anaerobic bacteria that's particularly susceptible to high levels of vitamin C, ultraviolet, all these other different kinds of things. And so you will try different kinds of modalities, and some of these will indeed be successful. Because you'll know that it has a vulnerability in a bacterial stage. You can get rid of the intervening backup host of the bacteria or cut it down to a certain level, then that avenue for the bioweapon is cut off to it. And so it's a matter of strategy and tactics, because you're dealing with something that was designed. And so the society may not devolve into Mad Max world if we get an authoritarian figure that can go to the doctors and the military and say, it's a bioweapon, change your thinking now to survive. And if they do that, off we go. If you have people saying, oh, it's a flu, I'll smoke some more, it's the flu, those people won't. Their first encounter with COVID will kill them. The pneumococci infestation, and then the resultant degradation of the lung tissue to the Prevotella bacteria that will infect it, will kill those individuals. And so the social order changes, because if enough of those individuals die off in all the power structure, then we get that colonel that gets promoted to a general. The general gets promoted to head of Joint Chiefs, the head of Joint Chiefs that then suddenly becomes president, right? And then they change things by saying, it's a bioweapon, you stupid assholes, change your thinking. Until you change your thinking, your observations will be put through a perception filter. If you perceive it as a virus, everything that comes out that does not fit that viri template will be discarded, but it may be very meaningful in the developing of an anti-COVID modality. So it's all about your perceptual filters and how those affect your observations, and then how those affect your conclusions and what you can extrapolate from those conclusions. This is why I'm very pissed and very irritated about the huge amount of VD guys, okay, virus deniers. These are a VD social order, all right? A virulent VD social order, because they're denying it's a virus. They're saying in the woo-woo world that, deep state's being taken down. There's going to be 100,000 arrests. Like, that's meaningful now. You couldn't hold a trial now if you tried. And David Wilcock is just so full of shit with all of this. Oh, it's going to happen in the future. It's going to happen in the future. And, he's one of those individuals that has a very structured belief system. So he'll filter all of his observations through that perceptual filter and will make mistakes. Different mistakes than Joseph Farrell. But he'll make mistakes. And mistakes can be fatal in year zero. That's where we are now, year zero. Everything changed when the Communist Party of China fucked up and let this bioweapon out. Everything changed. It was probably October 19th of last year. We don't know for sure. By December 19th, the Chinese Communist Party knew that bioweapon was released, and they started reacting. It only took them 19 days to start taking extreme measures, but it was another 36 days before they actually did lockdown on any of the civilians. But in that intervening time, they were doing massive amounts to try and protect their military. It has not been successful. There will not be a shooting war that will involve military versus military on this planet, because the militaries are going down because they're being told it's a virus and not a bioweapon. The Chinese military knows it's a bioweapon, but they knew it too late. The measures they took were too late. It was already infecting them at the time that they were sealing their bases up and throwing in all of the supplies. And so it was too late. And it requires a non-rigid, non-belief system modality to deal with it, even at a macro level within the military, let alone within an individual that's infected by it, right? But just dealing with a base or a ship or an airplane or a submarine that's infected by it it requires a different level of thinking in order to deal with it as a bioweapon. The plans that we made for bioweapons in the past did not anticipate the kind of bioweapon we're dealing with now. Look at my last two videos, especially this previous one to this, Smoking Bats 2. And you'll see why it's going to be so insidious, but it also offers opportunities to defeat it because of its very nature. There are weaknesses built into it because it's designed, and we can take advantage of those if we think about this correctly. But if we don't if we don't get out of our belief systems, discard them, and be willing to say this is year zero, next year is year one if humanity survives. Year two follows that if humanity survives. And that's about all we've got is 2 years. the healthcare system will break down, and then over the subsequent 18 months, vast numbers of humans will die from ordinary accidents, from contention, from starvation, from regular disease, from bad water, from cholera, from all manner of plagues, because there is no longer a sophisticated medical system. So, that being the case, I'd like to save that sophisticated medical system so I don't end up dying because of one of these accidents prematurely. All right? And that's why I'm working so hard on this. That's why I'm hammering on the idea that it's a bioweapon. If you simply change your thinking, then everything can change from that. If you do not change your thinking, we're destined for Mad Max world, and that's the facts of, or that's my opinion, that's my extrapolation from the bullshitted behavior that I'm seeing so far in the macrocosm of the globe as a whole, all the way down to the microcosm of the woo-woo community, which is very small. Not a million people like David Wilcox's numbers would have you believe. And this inability to understand what has happened and to go and look at real evidence, not, I think it's a flu kind of shit, but go and look at what happened to China. Go and see if you can find any sign of an industrial economy coming back. See if you can find any observations that don't go through the CCP. So don't take anything on the ground because all that shit's filtered, but look at satellite photos, look at internet traffic, look at airplane traffic, look at shipping traffic, look at any objective measure, look at the cost of shipping now, look at the cost of oil, look at the amount of goods we've got. Any of these things that are objective measures will tell you that something giant has happened to humanity, and it ain't the fucking flu. I know people that have died from this, okay? It's not a pleasant death. I know people that have struggled out, that are still struggling, that will have to struggle with potentially permanent lung damage and other organ failure damage from this. Because it is a bioweapon. It doesn't strike like the flu. It's not a respiratory thing alone. So, but perception-wise, you can get over this. You can make changes instantly because you're perceiving it in a different fashion. But as long as we're going through these belief systems, as long as we allow our perceptions to control our observations, which in turn inform our extrapolations, we're going to have people out there that are basically attempting to, I don't know, assuage themselves, say they're not at risk by saying it's the flu and keep on with their lifestyles, by saying that, oh, well, you know, Jason Goodman and David Wilcock and JSNP4 and all these other guys are saying, well, you know, Trump will just flip a switch. The economy will come roaring back. Everything will be good again. Fat chance fuckers, China's not coming back. China's not going to be doing business with anybody for a long time. Any military that survives may try and strike China just out of retribution when they see the result of this in even 6 months. We're only in year 0 of this. The bioweapon will be around until humanity decides that to get rid of it, to address it as a bioweapon and come up with a solution. Otherwise, it's in our environment, and we'll be dealing with it forever. And it'll kill us before we can kill it if we don't get real serious here, because of the degradation of the infrastructure. Now, maybe universe wants us to go back to, 1/10 the population, 35 million people eking out a living here in North America, and maybe 6 million people in Soviet or in Russia. And maybe, it'll be, maybe it'll be 100 million people left in all of China. So maybe universe wants us to go back that far. I don't know. It's not up to me. I do know that we're right in the cusp here. We're in this transition period, and that in year 0, there is flexibility. There is flexibility of movement that won't exist a year from now or 2 years from now, because there will be a lot fewer of us. The infrastructure will have changed. Power structures will have degraded hugely as people have been killed by the bioweapon. And off we go. There's things you can do. Go and look up Chaga Gangster, change your opinions, and change your mindset. It's a fucking bioweapon. It's not the flu, Dr. Joseph Farrell or David Wilcock. It's not. We're not coming back, Jason Goodman. Nope. Trump's not going to flip a switch. There's not going to be factories in China roaring back to life just because Trump says, okay, all good now. Same thing, JSNP. What's his name? Alec Jones is going to fuck Q up the ass next Wednesday. He's going to out the boogers, as he should, because they're lying fucktards that are if not in the pay of the Communist Party of China. They're doing their bidding, and the Communist Party of China is promoting anybody that will deflect blame from them. And they fucked up accidentally, let's hope. Could have been deliberate, though.